All right, hello and welcome. Today, we are going to crack the code on how to absolutely nail those long-form answer questions in your GCSE Citizenship exam. You know that feeling, right? That little bit of panic when you turn the page and see a huge 12 or 15-mark question staring back at you? Well, if that's you, you're in the right place.
It's such a classic exam moment. You see the big question, the empty page, and that little voice in your head just goes, okay, what do they actually want from me here? Let's clear that up, shall we? We're going to turn that confusion into a rock-solid plan of attack.
So, here's our game plan. First up, we'll crack the citizenship code, so you know exactly what you're being marked on. Then, I'm going to give you an exam success toolbox, a killer method to structure your answers. After that, we'll put it into practice on the 6-marker, before moving on to ace those big questions. And we'll wrap it all up with a final checklist so you feel totally ready. Let's do this.
Okay, first things first, we have to understand the rules of the game. Every single mark you earn is for showing one of 3 specific skills. The examiners call these assessment objectives, or AOs for short.
It breaks down just like this. AO1 is all about showing what you know, your facts, your keywords. That's 30% of your total GCSE. Then you have AO2, which is about applying all that knowledge to real-life situations, especially in the UK. That's another 30%. But, and this is the important part, look at AO3. It's a massive 40%. This is the big one. This is analyzing, evaluating, making judgments. This is where the top grades are really decided.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a direct quote from Pearson's own examiner training. The top marks, they say, are won in the analysis and critique. So the big question is, how do we make sure you're hitting those crucial AO3 marks every single time? Well, you need the right tool for the job.
Okay, so let's get into it. I want to introduce you to what's going to be your new best friend for these long answer questions, the WHY1Y2 method. Seriously, this is like the master key that will help you build powerful, high-scoring paragraphs every single time you write.
Think of it as your secret weapon. It's a simple, repeatable structure that makes sure you hit all the assessment objectives and build an argument that examiners just can't help but give marks to.
So here's the magic. W, what is your point? You start with a clear statement that answers the question. H, how do you prove it? Back it up with evidence from a source or a real-world example. Y, is your point correct? This is where you explain it and develop your argument. And the final step, why does this all matter? This is your evaluation, your link back to the question, and your ticket to those top AO3 marks.
Right, now that we have our awesome new tool, let's actually put it to work. We'll see how it builds a fantastic answer in a real exam situation, starting with the source-based 6-mark question.
For these questions, you're going to get a source and be asked to talk about it. The absolute key here is to use that source for your H, your evidence, but then you have to add your own analysis. You'll build 1 or maybe 2 solid WHY1Y2 paragraphs. The single biggest mistake students make is just copying out what the source says. Don't do that. And this just proves the point perfectly. The examiners are flat out telling us if you just list information, you're going to get very few marks. You have to provide the why and the why does this matter parts yourself. You have to add value.
Right, time for the big ones. The WHY2 method is still our guide, but how you put the paragraphs together changes depending on how many marks are on offer.
Now this slide, this is basically your game plan for the whole end of the paper. Check out the key differences. For a 10-marker, it's 3 paragraphs. Simple. But for the 12 and 15 markers, you got to be evaluating and creating a balanced argument. And maybe the most important difference of all, look at that conclusion row. You do not need one for a 10-marker, but it is absolutely essential for the 12 and 15 markers. Let's break that down a bit more.
Okay, so this is crucial. For a 10-mark question, your job is to write 3 separate, well-developed WHY1Y2 paragraphs. And that's it. Seriously, do not waste precious exam time writing an intro or a conclusion. Just get straight into the points, build your 3 arguments, and then move on.
But for the 12 and 15 markers, the game completely changes. Here you must show a balanced argument, looking at different sides of an issue. You're still going to use WHY1, Y2 for each point, but you'll be building paragraphs for and against an idea. And, crucially, you have to finish with a justified conclusion where you weigh up the evidence and make a final call.
And here it is, a direct warning from the exam board. If you only argue one side in one of these big questions, you literally put a cap on your mark. You just can't get into the top bands. So being balanced isn't just a nice idea, it's a requirement for getting a top grade. Simple as that.
Okay, that was a lot of information, I know. So let's pull it all together into one final, simple checklist. Think of this as something you can revise from and just keep in your head when you walk into that exam hall.
This right here is your ultimate game plan. For a 6-marker, use the source. For a 10-marker, 3 strong paragraphs and you're done. For the 12 and 15 markers, balance your points and write that all-important conclusion. And for every single question, please remember to use specific UK examples and always, always use that Y2 step to evaluate and link your points straight back to the question.
So there you have it, the WHYY2 toolbox, and the specific plans for every single extended question. You now know exactly what the examiners are looking for and, more importantly, how to give it to them. The only thing left to do is get practicing. You've totally got this.